last month we have been running this Blade Runner. It's the ED160 Kobelco Blade Runner. And after putting 180, almost 200 hours on it, there's a few things about it that I like, and there's a few things about it that I don't. The blade is great, but you're constantly wanting for more horsepower. You're wanting for more power when you're trying to track and adjust the blade. It just doesn't feel like there's enough hydraulic pump, enough horsepower to give you the oomph that you want with this machine. It's great for grading and doing that kind of stuff. We're out here and we're building some roads through this forest. We got a lot of trees. We're pulling a lot of stumps. So pushing stumps, moving trees. It's been a pretty good machine. I will say that there's been a few times where I wished I had either more reach or more muscle for moving bigger trees or bigger stumps. So I love the fact that it's got a 100 horsepower motor because it's sipping fuel. It doesn't burn fuel like a Cat 320, and certainly not like a 336 Caterpillar that's gonna burn at maybe 8 gallons a minute, or it's gonna burn at 8 gallons an hour. So I love that, but you do feel some frustration when it's moving really slow when it's under a load. The blade is nice, and the heavy duty tracks are nice, but you find yourself feeling like the thing is very tippy. If you're not working right over the front of that blade, and if you don't have that blade stuck down in the ground, you feel like the thing is shaking around quite a bit. You just don't have the stability that other larger excavators with larger tracks seem to have. Certainly with the zero tail swing, you don't have that counterbalance either. You've got to put this blade out in front of you, and you've got to work over it, or you just feel like you're going to fall on your nose all the time. The price. This thing is priced at about $200,000. I struggle with the $200,000 machine, and we've bumped it into some trees, and the whole body is very tinny. It kind of feels like I'm driving around in a roll of tin foil. I am constantly worried that I'm going to hit a stick or something, because the doors on the motor compartment, the doors on the cab is all very thin, tinny material. So if you're out in the trees in any way at all, you're going to want a forestry package to up armor this machine, or else you're going to be replacing panels and doors constantly on this particular machine. So at $200,000, I'm looking at this going, man, I could buy a 200 series machine. I wouldn't get the blade, but I would have enough machine that I could put a grading bucket out front that's 6 foot wide and could grade, scrape, dig, whatever I wanted to, and get about the same results as I'm getting with this machine. And if I bought that machine used, I could pick it up at $100,000 or $125,000. It's going to have a ton of life left in it, certainly more than I'll probably ever use. And my payoff is almost half of what this thing would be. So this is really a specialty tool, and it would be not something I would ever want to buy brand new, and it would be very hard for me to justify. I'd have to win the lottery before I'd want to buy one of these brand spanking new. Because quite frankly, I could bill more for a 200 series machine than I can bill for a 160 in the eyes of a contractor or a homeowner who's saying, hey, I'm a bigger machine, more fuel, more cost. Yeah, you can bill $150 an hour for that machine, but I'm only going to pay you $115 or $125 for this machine. Which means your payoff is going to take a lot longer on this one, and you're going to be a little frustrated. So I'm not sure, how Kobelco justifies this machine. Now, when we compare this to a Volvo 145 or to a Caterpillar 315, I don't get the 6-way blade, but I do get an up and down, and I do get a blade. But I save about $25,000 or $30,000 buying a Volvo or buying a Caterpillar over buying this Blade Runner, and the upgrade here is heavier duty tracks and a 6-way blade. But I don't know that that justifies $30,000 for all of us that are out here in the trenches taking hand grenades. How do I justify that additional cost on a payment when I can't justify additional income because of that cost? Now, your salesman's going to tell you, well, the tracks are going to last longer and you're not going to have to replace them as much. But if I'm buying a 200 series machine at a lower price, I'm getting this heavier duty tracks. Now, you might have something on buying a Caterpillar 315 or a Volvo 145. Those track systems might not be as heavy duty here, but $30,000 heavier duty? And who in the hell keeps an excavator for 8 or 9 or 10,000 miles? Or, sorry, miles, I wish. Who keeps their excavator for 8 or 9,000 hours where they're looking at redoing the entire undercarriage? So that argument is a little bit of a moot point. It doesn't make any sense to me. What do I like? I like the fact that this thing is a little bit lighter and you can hop it around. You can throw it on the back of a dump truck, take it to a job, and when you're there, you can dig, you can grade, and one machine, one mobilization, and you are done. So I like that about this machine. But how often do I do that? For my business, I work on larger tracks. I spend more time here. If I was just out digging basements, trying to hit a basement a week, going bing, 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 bouncing around like a pinball, this might make more sense where I could justify, I've only got to move it once, but I've got a dozer where I can grade and backfill, I can dig, it's all in one machine. This would be a perfect machine for digging basements. But I think the application that they're after is more of a mountain machine for building roads. And maybe it would work good there too, but I don't know how you justify the price tag versus what you get. You gotta want to spend some money in order to run out and buy one of these things brand new. So maybe it's not the right machine for us. I'm sure there's other people who would say that it's the right machine for them. My advice to you is Kobelco makes a great machine. If you're going to be out in the woods, you're going to definitely want to up armor it, because the tinny doors and cab and everything, a couple of trees, some branches, you're going to have dents, scratches, dings, bent up doors in no time. But my advice would be go find yourself a good 320 or a 315 or a 145 and buy those at 3,000 hours or 3,500 hours or 4,000 hours where they've already taken maximum depreciation. Pick those up at around $100,000 or $80,000, wherever they're at, and you can then make the same kind of money and only have to pay back half of the amount as if you bought this $200,000 machine. So I mean, from a business perspective, I don't know that this thing makes a lot of sense with the amount of time that it's going to take to pay for itself. I think there's other options that would give you similar features at a much lower price point. So my advice is buy a used machine at 3,000 or 4,000 hours, and if you want a dozer blade, either build yourself a bucket with an I-beam out at the end of it where you can, a grade beam, and you can grade and doze and whatever that's 6 foot long or 8 foot long or whatever you want. That's certainly a lot cheaper than buying a 6-way dozer blade and buying this machine. So that's kind of my review of the Kobelco ED160 Blade Runner. It's got some nice features, but I think you can get similar features at a much better price point if you shop around.